Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're combining two cutting edge materials to make an incredible new design. We're combining forged carbon fiber, originally pioneered by Lamborghini, and titanium together to make an aerospace grade ring. The end result should be a very modern take on a classic design. So let's get started. To get started, we're gonna cut our blank from a solid titanium rod. So we put it right here on the bandsaw and we're gonna let it cut through the titanium rod so we can start working this on the lathe. Now we're gonna move over to the drill press to work on the carbon fiber. And take a look at this forged carbon fiber. This stuff is absolutely incredible. Forged carbon fiber is actually one of the hardest types of carbon fiber to get right, because a lot of times when you're making forged carbon fiber, you don't have the benefit of laying up the carbon fiber in a vacuum bag and then infusing it with resin or something like that. And so you end up a lot of times with some pinholes and voids and things like that. This forged carbon fiber is absolutely perfect. There's no voids. It's very, very high quality, which is why we're using it for this ring today. I'm gonna cut out two blanks right here, and you'll see why when we get into the build process of why we need two blanks for this design. But for right now, I wanna talk a little bit about cutting the forged carbon fiber. Because this is such high quality forged carbon fiber with no voids, I can simply cut it the exact same way that I would cut other carbon fiber. I can dry cut it for a little bit with a diamond bit, just a little bit of water to keep the temperature down so there's no delamination. These are the two blanks that I just cut out on the drill press, and we cleaned off the carbon fiber dust. They've got like a drier and matte finish, but I just wanted you to see kind of what these look like. They look a little different than the twill carbon fiber stuff that we normally work with. It has kind of chaotic or varying waves that go around the ring. We really, really like working with this, and I'm really excited about how this is gonna look when it's all done. So now we're going over to the titanium and we are gonna core out the inside and size it. So I got my boring bar, I've got it in the lathe, and I'm gonna just slowly start cutting out millimeter by millimeter until we have it to the right size. To make this go a little faster, I'm taking material off on both passes. So as the boring bar is going in, we've got a positive rate cut that's taking material off, and then I'm also doing a negative rate cut on the way out, and that's just speeding up the process a little bit for us. And to be quite honest, the reason I really like doing the negative rate cut on the way out is because it's one of the most satisfying feelings of turning the knob and feeling that cut, the pressure of the titanium. It's really smooth, it's really nice. And I don't know why, but it is such a satisfying feeling. All right, now that we got the inside sized, we're gonna take the blank that we just made, the sized blank, we're gonna put it on a ring mandrel and we're gonna start working the outside. I'm gonna face the ring just a little bit real quick before we start working on the outside. I just wanna make sure everything's squared off and nice and balanced before we start cutting. Now that we have the front of the ring faced, we are gonna do an outer diameter cut and get the outer diameter down to the size that we want it to be. And I'm gonna do kind of light passes because we want it to be as close to a polished finish right out of the gate to save us a little bit of time sanding down the line. So now I'm gonna start digging into the titanium a little more. We're gonna create like a ledge or a step where we can sleeve the carbon fiber onto. And we're gonna leave a little bit of titanium because we wanna sleeve the carbon fiber on either side of the titanium, creating kind of a titanium center stripe with forged carbon fiber on both sides. We got the outside done, and now we're gonna work on the edges. We're gonna work on the width of the ring and cut down the width so it's a more manageable width. Right now it's pretty wide and it would be cool to wear, but a little bit uncomfortable to wear as a daily ring. We have the basics of the titanium ring done. We're gonna try and get the carbon fiber to sleeve right onto the titanium nicely. So we're gonna put the carbon fiber into the jaws, and we are going to shave just a little bit off the carbon fiber. We don't need to go too far. We'll make it sleeve perfectly over the titanium. Cutting small pieces of carbon fiber like this can be a little sketchy. So fortunately, I only have to go out a little bit, so very light passes. But what happens a lot with carbon fiber is when you're cutting it with tungsten carbide cutters or sanding or anything like that dry, it tends to get very hot very fast. And when it gets hot, the epoxy that's holding the carbon fiber fibers together themselves sometimes will begin to melt, and it'll actually delaminate the entire carbon fiber piece. So we're just doing some very, very light passes. If I was doing more intense passes, I might use some water in this situation, but I really only need to go out about 0.5 millimeters. So it's really not a big cut, just very, very light. And we have a perfect fit of the carbon fiber sleeving nicely over the titanium. All right, we're gonna put a little bit of a comfort fit, a bevel on the titanium on the inside, so it's a little bit more comfortable to wear. This is easier to do at this stage because everything's been sized up and it's nice and true. Because when we put the carbon fiber on, we're gonna put some epoxy and it's gonna get a little messy. So it's just easier to do this before we bond everything together. I've got some 2-part epoxy right here, Astrotech Epoxy. It's a part A and B with a 1:1 ratio. And I'm going to mix and then apply the epoxy to the inside of the carbon fiber and then the outside of the titanium to bond them together permanently for life. The reason we want to use epoxy in this situation is the epoxy will help give us a permanent bond that will last a lifetime. Whereas if we were to use something like CA glue in this situation, the CA glue is going to bond it and it will be wearable, but the CA glue bond will break down over time between the carbon fiber and the metal, and it will not last a lifetime. We're trying to make an aerospace grade ring right here that's gonna last a long time, and you'll see later in the video that we're gonna beat the tar out of this ring just to show you what this ring is capable of doing. Now that we have it all glued up, the epoxied ring goes right into the oven and we're going to cure it at 185 degrees until it's properly cured. We pulled the ring out of the oven and it is permanently bonded together. Now it's time to start knocking down the forged carbon fiber to get it to match up with the outer diameter of the titanium. We're going to start with tungsten carbide bits, cutting the exterior down. It'll help speed up the process a little bit because we can take a little bit deeper of a pass. And then we're going to do the fine-tuning sanding with a Dremel. Now that I have it down to size, it's time to sand and polish. So I'm going to do this by hand. I'm going to hand shape, hand sand, and hand polish this ring so that it has the shape that I'm wanting it to have and it has the finish that I'm very, very happy with. The sanding and polishing process is probably my favorite part of this whole thing. It is a little tedious because you have to walk up the sandpaper grits. You know, we start out with a heavy grit, move into a finer grit until we can go up and polish it. But the reason I like this part is you slowly see the ring coming to life as you start walking up the grits. You can see the shape of the ring, you can see the finish starting to improve. And then when you get to the polish stage, this is where it really pops, and it's just a really satisfying feeling as a ring maker to get to this stage of the ring process. And there you have the outside. Quick look at the first finished part of the ring. Now we're gonna put it into the jaws and we're gonna start working on the inside. I've got it in there pretty lightly. I didn't clamp down on it super hard. And I'm just lightly touching up the cuts that I did earlier, taking out the machine marks and polishing it up. All right, now that we have the ring all done, we're gonna run over the ring with a car. And not just any car, we're gonna run it over with a truck. And we're gonna use the front wheel because the front wheel has more weight because the engine's up front. So let's see if this survives. Well, the ring survived. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. I really wasn't sure what was going to happen right there, but I'm super excited that it made it through. And it made it through with just minor scratches, like really not even much. So that's pretty cool. It's probably because we did everything right. You know, this is made with titanium, carbon fiber, and we bonded it properly. We did everything you're supposed to do to really make a nice bond. So the strength of this ring and the materials is what made it survive. And I'm really, really happy about it. These are available right now on our website. Head over to patrickadairdesigns.com and pick yourself up one made from aerospace grade materials found in supercars, jets, spaceships, and everything in between.